Welcome back to Soul Synergy Network. I'm Dr. Irma Elisheva Diaz, and today we're diving into a deeply personal and often unspoken aspect of grief, the loss of self. When we form deep connections with others, we naturally shape parts of our identity around those relationships, our time, energy, love, and even our roles in life. So when we lose someone that we love, it can feel as though a part of who we are has been taken with them. This loss can leave us feeling fractured, untethered, and unsure of our place in the world. Emotionally, the loss of self can manifest as a profound emptiness. You might feel disconnected, as though you no longer recognize the person you see in the mirror. There's often a deep yearning for the version of yourself that existed in that relationship, a spouse, a parent, a sibling, a best friend, or a caregiver. When that role is no longer part of your daily life, it can create overwhelming waves of sorrow, confusion, and even anger. This emotional fragmentation is so very real. And it's important to allow yourself to grieve not just the person you lost, but also the version of yourself that left with them. The mental toll of losing a loved one often leads to questions like, who am I now? How do I move forward without them? And those are questions that you can't answer right now. You can't go forward right now with those questions. Don't even try, because it will just add to the weight. You allow yourself to organically move forward. Don't push yourself because someone's telling you you need to start over. In fact, I just had one person that told me that they were already thinking of dating, and they had just lost their spouse. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is not, but as a counselor, you listen to people and you try to meet them where they are, and you help them arrive at where they need to be, without you pushing them. And that's the problem, is that many people start pushing you toward what they think you should do. But you need to move forward organically for what is best for you. So these questions of who am I, where do I go, how do I do this, what am I going to look like in 5 years, what am I going to look like in 2 years, that's really a full plate for you right now. It's just a lot for you to think about right now. Right now, you need to focus on yourself, on your family, on being there, on just helping yourself get through this and navigate, right? So these questions arise because the very framework of your life may have shifted. And I touched on this in our last podcast, but just to put a little more emphasis, it's very important to acknowledge that your brain may search for the routines or the interactions that once provided stability. And it leaves you feeling lost or stuck because the routine's not there anymore. So there's certain things that you have established with your loved one that no longer are part of your routine. And so it leaves you feeling a certain way, and it's awkward, and it's foreign. And when you couple that with hurt, it's very difficult, right? So you may find it difficult to focus on daily tasks, on making decisions. That's a big one, making decisions. One person was asking me, and I will touch on that later too, when do I put my loved one's clothes away? When do I move the room around? When do I do this? When do I, it's not smart to move quickly on anything. You move with a pace, a healthy pace, organically. You don't have to do everything in a big hurry. You can do it, but you don't have to do it right away. Some people might say, I'm going to wait till next month, till after the funeral, and start doing it slowly, and I'm going to do this. Or some people, like with me, I waited a year before, and my mom even longer, right? Because my dad was still there, so I didn't want to touch their stuff. But you can never rush yourself. It's important, right? So you may find it difficult to make decisions about that. And people will always try to help you by making the decision for you. Let it happen organically. You have to be ready for it. And if you move too quickly, you may regret it later, right? So that's important. The cognitive strain is part of your mind's effort to reconcile the new reality with the old. And it often leads to mental exhaustion. You feel exhausted because you're trying to put all the pieces together. It's like forming a puzzle that doesn't have the right pieces, and you're trying your best to put it together, and you're just not equipped for it right now. And you shouldn't be. It's not abnormal that you're not, by the way, because you're going through something. Your heart is broken. So we want to remember that. The physical toll is important, which I mentioned in another podcast. Grief doesn't just affect the heart and the mind. It can sometimes impact your body. Please don't forget that. You might feel fatigue. You might feel tension. You might feel a sense of heaviness. Or if your body is carrying the weight of your grief, you might feel overwhelmed with that. The physical symptoms like headaches, aches, and the urge to withdraw or isolate are common, very common in some. And not everybody, but in some. Why? Because our bodies keep score of our emotional pain. And when a part of your identity is severed, and that's what happens. For example, I was no longer a daughter with my parents' loss. You may no longer be a wife or a husband. You may no longer be a mother or a father. You may no longer be, an older sister, because all of these things come into play, and it's important because it messes with your identity, with what you're feeling, who you were, right? That's a layer, which I spoke about. These layers are so important. The roles, which I spoke about in the previous podcast, and the identity, your self-identity is so important. But there are practical solutions for the bereaved, and it's important for us to know that. Grief is not a problem to solve. You don't have to solve this problem. Always remember that, and it's worth repeating. It is not a problem that you solve. Grief is it's a season of life. It's a part of life that we don't have any control over, which is also hard. And so we want to remember that. There's steps you can take to help you move forward. And some of these I've maybe posed a little differently in other podcasts, but there's steps that are important. We need to learn to acknowledge our loss. And sometimes, especially when it's fresh, it's hard to do that. So we give ourselves permission to grieve, not just the person that we lost, but the version of who we are, the version of yourself that was tied to that relationship. That version is what you're grieving. That's one of the layers you're grieving. So journaling can help you process your feelings and identity. For some, and I say that because I've run across some people that don't like journaling. I've run across some people that say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to write, but I do want to think, I want to process. I want to meditate on certain things. And that's okay too. But we have to come to a place where we can acknowledge our loss, acknowledge it and know that it happened, not deny it, and know that we need to learn to move forward in it. We need to reconnect with ourselves. And we need to start small. So we rediscover our hobbies or our interests or our passion that bring joy, that bring comfort. We need to rediscover. When people are grieving, you kind of lose sight of your own passion. You kind of lose sight for temporary. You lose sight of your own passion. You lose sight of your own interests. You lose sight of what brings you comfort. And because you're in an upheaval and there's some things going on within you. And so it's important that one of the things that helps is to reconnect with yourself and to bring yourself to a place where you can review with yourself what you enjoy in life, your interests, what brings you joy, what brings you comfort, what is your passion, right? Some people may say, I don't have a passion, or I don't know what my passion is. That's okay too. Again, everything's organic. Nothing is pushy. Nothing is pushy. Reflect on your strengths and your qualities that remain with you, even after the loss. So important, right? And then again, I can never get tired of saying this, seek support. If you need support, seek support. Counseling can provide a safe space to explore the layers of your grief and begin rebuilding your sense of self. Join a grief group to connect with others who understand what you're going through and can share their experiences. Remember, I've mentioned it several times. I'm going to be scheduling a grief group that's virtual. And so you want to make sure that you stay connected to us and subscribe so that you'll know when I'm doing that. Practice self-care. Be gentle with yourself. Make time, again, for rest, nourishing meals, and simple pleasures like a walk in nature or listening to music, as I mentioned previously. That's so important. Consider practices like mindfulness, prayer, meditation. Some people really get a lot out of yoga to help ground you in the present moment. These things are important. Create new rituals. That's a big thing. Find ways to honor your loved one while embracing the new version of yourself. One of the things that I'll be doing when I can, I want to say when we approach the holidays next, but when I can, is how to get through the holidays. A lot of people don't know how to do that. And so a lot of things that I teach about is creating new rituals. And when I say rituals, I don't mean like, something weird. I mean, doing things like, for example, on Thanksgiving, having their picture at the table with the family and maybe lighting a little candle next to their picture in remembrance of them. There's all kinds of little things that you do that help you, but you create them for yourself. And so it could be lighting a candle, writing a letter, starting a new tradition in their memory to honor their legacy. That's another thing I want to make sure that we cover in a podcast, the importance of legacy, the beauty of it, the strength of it, the power of it, right? So important. Set small goals for yourself. Even if this is new, focus on one step at a time, even small accomplishments like getting out of bed, taking a shower, making a phone call, and do things that make you feel more grounded, that make you feel more normal, right? Because you are normal, you're grieving, right? And find meaning in life. Over time, reflect on ways that your loved one's legacy can inspire you. Think about them. Think about what they left you. Think about how they were, how they enjoyed life, or what they were like. When I was growing up with my brother and I, we had a beautiful home with family. And I just remember I always go back and think about what it was like and how my parents were and how beautiful it was, right? That may or may not fit with you, but it may be something else. Reflect on the legacy of your loved one. Maybe it's continuing something they cared about or living in a way that honors their memory. So important. Ask for help when needed. If grief becomes too overwhelming, reach out to a trusted friend. Again, I'm going to say that a lot, a counselor or a support group. That's important. Remember, seeking help is a sign of wisdom, strength, and not weakness. So the grieving process isn't just about letting go of the person you've lost, because you're not going to let go. They are always going to live in your heart, in your heart, a memory in your heart. That's what keeps them alive. It's about rediscovering who you are without them. Again, that may be a different stage or a different place where you are, especially if it just happened that you lost your loved one. But at a certain point, it's going to be so important to rediscover who you are without them. And in doing so, and again, I'll touch more on that, you're honoring their legacy. Very important. This journey takes time. There's no rush. It has to be organic in order to be healthy, but there's no rush. Be patient and compassionate with yourself as you navigate this new chapter. Recognize the emotional, mental, and physical toll grief has on you, and allow yourself to feel those emotions without judgment. Know that this is a normal thing. What you're feeling, the pain, it's all part of your healing. As I've shared in previous episodes, Grief is layered. It's not just about the primary loss. It's about all the secondary losses that ripple through your life. I'm going to continue touching on the stages of grief. I'm going to continue touching on the layers because that was just the very beginning of what you are grieving that you may not even realize. When you begin to name and understand these layers of loss, you can better navigate this difficult season. Remember, there's no right or wrong way to experience grief. That would be like telling someone how to feel with a broken heart. You can't do it. You absolutely can't. Some people cry while others don't. Some need to talk while others prefer silence. Grief is deeply personal and should never, ever be compared. The best way to navigate grief is to give yourself permission to be who you are. It's not about what others think or say. It's about honoring what you feel and bringing clarity to those emotions. Absolutely. This clarity doesn't erase the pain or the void, but it helps you move through grief with greater understanding and, over time, healing. Thank you for spending time with me today. In future episodes, we'll explore the steps toward rediscovering and redefining yourself after a significant loss. If this message resonated with you, I encourage you to listen to more of my teachings on grief. Each episode offers insights and support to help you through this challenging time. Invite others to subscribe and listen in. I also invite you to visit my website, soulsynergy.com, where you'll find additional resources on grief, healing, and support. While you're there, leave your email address so we can stay connected. Soon, I will be scheduling an affordable virtual grief group where you can participate from the comfort of your home. Remember, healing happens one step, one breath, and one moment at a time. You are not alone in this journey. Until next time, God bless you.